What's up YouTube, Capital G here, checking out the brand new Tri-Brigade archetype that just got revealed coming out of Phantom Rage. These guys actually share a lore with the Dragma archetype from Rise of the Duelists. It looks like they're fighting each other and they are interacting within the card art, so that's pretty interesting. But also, these guys have a very weird mechanic that I feel like Konami was probably they were probably getting around to, and that is the fact that this archetype can basically miracle fusion for link monsters. Who needs to use your field when you can just use your graveyard? Every single monster in the main deck for this archetype has the ability to banish other monsters in the archetype to summon their link monsters, which is actually kind of cool. And let's just go ahead and start breaking them down. Anyways, the first card is Tri-Brigade Navel. It's a level 1 wind attribute wing beast monster, 0 attack and 2000 defense. Now, your second effect is a hard once per turn, and your first effect is built into all the main deck monsters. You can banish any number of beast, beast warrior, and wing beast monsters from your graveyard. You cannot use monsters as link material for the rest of this turn except beast, beast warrior, and wing beast monsters. Also special summon one beast, beast warrior, or wing beast link monster from your extra deck with a link rating equal to the number of cards banished. Second effect, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add one Tri-Brigade monster from your deck except another copy of Navel. So a lot of people are saying that this is basically the Ultrageist Miluseek for this archetype. Level 1 monster. When it goes to the graveyard from the field, actually, excuse me, it doesn't even have to be from the field, but when it goes to the graveyard, it just rotas for another monster. I think that the second effect seems very easy to use because you can just normal summon this, go on to Link Karibo or something like that. And obviously the first effect on this card is incredibly strong as well. Being able to use your graveyard to summon Link monsters seems like that could be a serious doozy. I think it really is just going to be restricted on how quickly you can load your graveyard up with monsters, but definitely feels like a very powerful effect. The next card is Tribrigade Saris. This is a level 2 beast, and if it isn't obvious by now, the entire archetype is beast, beast warrior, and winged beast. So that's why all the monsters have restrictions relating to those three types. You've got 1200 attack on this monster and 1500 defense. Your first and second are both hard once per turns each, and your first effect is kind of the unique effect. That is, you can discard one other beast, beast warrior, or winged beast monster, special summon this card from your hand. Second effect is the same effect where you get the miracle fusion for one of their extra deck monsters. Okay, so this is an extender and a card that doesn't eat up your normal summon. However, it does require a discard, and a very specific discard at that. Not only does it have to be a monster, but you know, it has to be one of the typing in this archetype. I actually think that Zephyros the Elite is going to be mandatory in this archetype. It's going to have insane synergy not only with this card but other cards, because imagine you open with this in Zephyros. You could pitch the Zephyros, special summon this guy, bounce this guy back to your hand, get the Zephyros on field, then normal summon the Zephyros. You could then go for some link plays in later in the turn or later, you know, in the duel. Your Zephyros that doesn't really have much utility in the graveyard because you use this effect now can kind of serve as link fodder for this archetype. So yeah, this card feels fine. I think it will require you run some outside pieces. Your next monster is going to be Tribrigade Offractor, which is a level 4 fire beast warrior monster. Your first effect says that you can send this card from your field or hand to the graveyard. Send one level 3 or lower beast, beast warrior, or wing beast monster from your deck to the graveyard. Second effect is just the miracle fusion effect. Damn, if only it sent Zephyros the Elite. That would have been so good for this card if it could send level 4s. Unfortunately, you only get to send really the other two monsters we just talked about, or you know, other archetypes. And this feels like probably the worst card in this you know, main deck so far. And by the way, this archetype only has 3 main deck monsters, but you might have to run all of them just because your monster count is so incredibly low right now. The link monsters, we have a link to, which is Tribrigade Felidgette of the Fruitless Flower, linked to Earth Beast Monster 1600, and it points to the bottom left and then also to the left. 2 Beast, Beast Warrior, or Winged Beast monsters. Again, everything in this archetype is very restricted to those 3 types. First effect says during your main phase, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower Beast, Beast Warrior, or Winged Beast monster from your hand, but you cannot use monsters as link material for the rest of the turn except for those 3 types. Second effect, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can draw 1 card, then place 1 card from your hand to the bottom of your deck. So obviously, this card is, to me, not really meant to stay on the field very long. She's just kind of a stepping stone. Her effect, summons a monster from your hand, and then her second effect basically gives you a nice little fix your hand option when she does go to the graveyard. I think the whole purpose of this card is just to get to the Link 3 monster, who I really think might be the worst of the 3 Link monsters, but you guys will decide on that. Anyways, this is Tri-Brigade Lugal of the Silver Bullets. Link 3, 2300 attack, points to the right, the bottom, and then the bottom right. And the materials are just 2+ of the 3 types that I don't feel like mentioning every single time they list them. During your main phase, quick effect, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower of those 3 types from your hand or graveyard, but negate its effects. Also return it to the hand during the end phase. Second effect, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can make all face-up monsters your opponent controls lose 300 attack for each type or each different type of monster you currently control until the end of the turn. That second effect is trash. I'm just gonna be blunt. Honestly, who even cares about monster attack debuffing in Yu-Gi-Oh? It's honestly, it doesn't really end up being that impactful. I think the second effect of the card we just talked about, drawing and then putting a card back, is far more impressive. The free monster reborn or special summon from your hand, that's pretty good. I'll definitely give it that. It can't reborn the link monsters, only the main deck monsters, but that actually seems pretty good, especially if you can keep this card alive for a couple of turns. It does only work during your opponent's turn as a downside. I think you're just going to run this card just because it's part of the archetype, and the link, it goes into the link 4. The link 4 is very impressive in my opinion, but honestly, this card's not all that good in my opinion. The link 4 is Tri-Brigade Shrike the Wicked Wings, which obviously means it's a wing beast monster, and it is link 4 dark wing beast monster, 3000 attack, and it has the Boral Load link points. Now, your materials are the 3 archetypes, or the 3 types, just 2+ monsters of those. Your first and second effects are both hard once per turn. First effect says if this card is special summoned or another beast, beast warrior, or wing beast monster is special summoned to your field, you can banish 1 card on the field. Second effect, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 of those 3 types from your deck to your hand, whose level is equal to or less than the number of banished of those 3 types. This card I like. Number 1, that banishing effect is non-targeting. It works against your opponent's monsters, spells, or traps. Number 2, it doesn't have to be link summoned for that effect to work, which means it works when you just special summon it from your extra deck by banishing cards in your graveyard, or if you properly link summon it. Hell, if it dies and you bring it back from the graveyard, you get the effect. And in addition to that, you don't even have to technically special summon this. You can special summon another monster in the archetype and get that effect off. I like that type of removal, and I love the fact that it's non-targeting. The link 4 definitely has a lot going for it. We've got to continue spell card, which is basically like the Rhoda / kind of Tinky for this archetype, not quite as good. Second effect, hard once per turn. This is Tri-Brigade line. First effect says you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except those 3 types. The second effect says you can send 1 monster from your hand or field to the graveyard, add 1 Tri-Brigade monster from your deck to your hand with a different original type as a sent monster. Third effect, if this card and your spell and trap zone is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can activate this effect. Your opponent cannot declare an attack for the rest of this turn. The third effect, I said this on my live stream, it's cute. I don't really see you pulling it off very often because who's going to just blatantly destroy this card if they know that effect is going to be there to activate. The second effect is obviously the best effect of this card. I kind of feel like that's just another reason Zephyros the Elite will be good in this deck. Pitch Zephyros the Elite and then search for a card, bounce this card to your hand, and then you can just summon your Zephyros the Elite freely to the field. Just a lot of synergy with Zephyros the Elite. This card is really good. So this card, the quick play, is Tri-Brigade Airborne. It's a quick play with a hard once per turn. Target one of the 3 types. You cannot special summon any monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except link monsters. Also special summon one of the 3 types from your deck whose attack is equal to or less than the targeted monster and a different type, but negate its effects until the end of the turn. This feels incredibly good with the link 4 because it gives you a way of special summoning, you know, one of those 3 types, and then obviously triggering the link 4 to banish one of your opponent's monsters. And even though the monster's effect is negated, it's not permanent negation. It's only negated until the end phase, so that monster's effect will eventually turn on. This feels like a great way of triggering the link 4 and also just of getting more monsters on the field ASAP. This can also summon Zephyros the Elite from your deck, which is kind of cool. We've got a couple of trap cards to finish out the archetype. The first one is Tribrigade Revolt, and it has a hard once per turn. This card's pretty good in my opinion. It says special summon any number of those 3 types that are banished or in your graveyard, but negate their effects if any. And if you do, after this card resolves, link summon 1 Tri-Brigade link monster using those monsters. So, and actually only those monsters. So this means if you bring back 4 monsters, you can go straight for the link 4 and you can banish one of your opponent's cards, which feels very good in my opinion. I think getting the link 3 might be okay because then you could just reborn one of the link monsters, but this feels like a good way of recovering your resources because I was kind of concerned. I was like, if this deck just banishes all their monsters trying to link summon, aren't you just going to run out of resources? But this card feels mandatory because not only does it summon their link monsters, but it refills your graveyard up for you to use those monsters again. The last trap, I don't really know what they're going for here. This is Tri-Brigade Oath. I love the artwork. It you know, it has the Dragma Aclessa right there in the artwork. It says target 1 link monster you control, special summon the 3 types from your, or special summon 1 of the 3 types monster from your hand or graveyard with a different type. Second effect says if you control at least 1 of the 3 types, you can banish this card from your graveyard, target 1 face-up spell or trap your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of the turn. Okay. The second effect seems like it has a high upside because it can negate just one of your opponent's spell cards when they're trying to activate it. The problem is you have to have a Beast Warrior, Winged Beast, and a Beast. You have to have all 3 of them. Like, it's all or nothing, and that feels kind of difficult to have. The second effect, or the first effect, I mean, yeah, it is a Monster Reborn or a Call of the Haunted, I guess you could say, for like the Link monsters and stuff like that, but why not just play Call of the Haunted? I mean, this card doesn't seem to be searchable in the archetype, and it kind of does require that you already have a link monster on the field, so it does have a restriction or an activation condition that it's not the hardest thing to, you know, use, but not the easiest. Like, why not just run Call of the Haunted? This archetype really doesn't seem to be able to just search these trap cards. The other trap I love, but this one, you kind of miss me with that. I don't think you need to run it. Anyways, whatever you guys think of the Tri-Brigade Oath, you leave that in the comment section below. Seems like a very interesting archetype nonetheless. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.